What if I told you that love alone is not enough? You might be in a relationship right now, feeling something is off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Maybe the passion has faded. Maybe the conversations feel forced. Or maybe, deep down, you wonder, am I really in love, or am I just afraid of being alone? This is a reality many people refuse to face. They stay in relationships not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of hurting someone. Fear of admitting that the dream they once had is now just a memory. But let's be clear, not all relationships are meant to last. Some exist only as a lesson. Some serve as a stepping stone for personal growth. And some are nothing more than a dead end. A dead-end relationship is one that no longer moves forward. No progress, no emotional growth, no shared vision for the future. And yet, people cling to them, mistaking comfort for love, routine for happiness, and silence for peace. Today, we're breaking the illusion. We're exposing the unspoken signs of a dead-end relationship, the ones you might have ignored for too long. Because the worst kind of love isn't heartbreak, it's being trapped in something that's already over. Are you ready to see the truth? Sign number 1, you are no longer happy. What is the purpose of a relationship if not to bring joy, companionship, and emotional connection? Yet, many people stay in relationships where they feel more alone than they would if they were single. Ask yourself, do you feel seen, valued, and emotionally fulfilled in your relationship? Or do you feel invisible, unheard, and emotionally drained? True love does not demand perfection, but it does require mutual effort. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, feeling emotionally disconnected, or longing for happiness that no longer exists, you might not be in love, you might just be afraid to leave. Consider this, if your best friend came to you and described your relationship as their own, would you tell them to stay? Or would you tell them that they deserve better? Happiness in a relationship is not about constant excitement, it's about consistent emotional safety and support. If being with your partner feels lonelier than being alone, it's time to confront the truth. A dead-end relationship does not announce itself loudly. It whispers in the silence between two people who no longer share their hearts. So I ask you, are you truly happy? Or are you just convincing yourself that this is what love is supposed to feel like? Sign number 2, your gut tells you something is wrong, but you ignore it. Have you ever felt an unsettling sensation in your stomach when you're with your partner? A quiet whisper in the back of your mind telling you that something feels off. This is not paranoia. This is your intuition speaking. Our subconscious mind picks up on small details, body language, tone of voice, patterns of behavior, that our conscious mind may overlook. If you feel uneasy, distant, or disconnected in your relationship without a clear reason, it might not be random. Maybe they stopped looking at you the way they used to. Maybe conversations feel forced, lacking depth or sincerity. Maybe you find yourself justifying their behavior more than enjoying their presence. Ignoring this feeling won't make it go away. It will only get louder until you either listen or regret not doing so sooner. Think about it, when was the last time your intuition was truly wrong? A dead-end relationship is often one where your heart already knows the truth, but your mind refuses to accept it. The longer you ignore the signs, the harder it will be to break free. So I ask you, what is your gut telling you? And more importantly, are you listening? Sign number 3, the happy moments are fading. Think back to the early days of your relationship. Do you remember the laughter, the shared inside jokes, the way time seemed to fly when you were together? Now, fast forward to the present. How often do you truly feel happy with your partner? If you realize that most of your interactions involve tension, frustration, or silence, this is a major red flag. Experts in relationship psychology suggest that a healthy relationship should have at least 5 positive interactions for every negative one. If 80% of your time together is spent arguing, feeling emotionally drained, or walking on eggshells, while only 20% is joyful, that's a dangerous ratio. The danger lies not just in the fighting itself, but in the gradual erosion of emotional intimacy. Conflict is normal, but love cannot thrive in an environment where joy is rare and resentment becomes the norm. Perhaps the problem isn't a single explosive argument, but rather a slow decay of warmth, affection, and connection. You might even start feeling relief when your partner is away instead of missing them. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly enjoyed being with them? A relationship that constantly drains you is not a relationship that nurtures you. And if happiness feels like a distant memory, it might be time to ask the hardest question of all. Are you staying because of love, or just because you're afraid to leave? Sign number 4, you become indifferent or feel emotionally abandoned. Love doesn't end in a dramatic explosion. More often, it fades into silence. At the start of a relationship, every conversation feels meaningful. You share your dreams, fears, and small daily moments. But now, there's only emptiness, not because you're too busy, but because neither of you feels the need to talk anymore. If you start feeling like you don't care about their opinion, or worse, they no longer care about yours, it's a serious red flag. Emotional detachment often begins with small things. You stop sharing how your day went. They no longer ask about your thoughts or feelings. Silence between you isn't comfortable, it's suffocating. When one or both partners no longer make an effort to communicate, it signals a relationship in decline. You might feel emotionally invisible, as if your presence doesn't matter. At its worst, you could start feeling more alone inside the relationship than you would if you were single. That's when you need to ask yourself. Are you in a relationship, or are you just coexisting? A relationship should be a partnership, not an emotional void. If they make you feel abandoned, even when they are physically present, it may be time to step back and reassess whether this relationship is truly nourishing your soul. Sign number 5, lack of intimacy and physical connection. Love speaks in many languages, but one of the most universal is touch. When you first fell in love, a simple brush of hands, a warm hug, or a passionate kiss meant everything. But now, it's gone. No spontaneous affection, no lingering touches, just cold distance. Physical intimacy isn't just about romance, it's about connection. When a couple stops touching, it often reflects something deeper. They no longer reach for you, not just sexually, but in everyday gestures. No more holding hands, no more hugs after a long day. Kisses have turned mechanical or non-existent. The passion that once burned has faded into routine, or worse, avoidance. Your bed has turned into two separate worlds. If you sleep next to each other but feel miles apart, the emotional detachment is real. Of course, every relationship goes through phases, and stress, exhaustion, or external pressures can temporarily affect intimacy. But if physical connection has been absent for weeks, months, or even years, it's a sign the emotional bond may have already withered. Ask yourself, do they avoid physical closeness? Do you feel like a stranger in your own relationship? When touch disappears, love isn't far behind. If the warmth is fading, it may be time to question whether this relationship is still alive, or just a habit neither of you is ready to break. Sign number 6, you constantly feel the need for more space. There was a time when being with them felt effortless. Now, the thought of spending time together drains you. You make excuses, late work, extra hobbies, errands that never existed before, just to avoid prolonged interactions. When you do have to be together, you find yourself yearning for solitude, feeling relieved when they're away. This is not a sign of healthy independence. Instead, it's a warning that the connection is fading, replaced by emotional suffocation or indifference. Psychologists refer to this as emotional distancing, a silent yet powerful signal that your heart is slowly detaching. You prefer solitude over their company. When love is alive, time together feels like a choice, not a burden. If you feel relief when they're gone, ask yourself why. Conversations feel exhausting, not fulfilling. You no longer share thoughts, dreams, or even the little joys of your day. Their presence feels like an obligation. Instead of missing them, you secretly crave more time alone. While needing space in a relationship is natural, constantly seeking an escape is not. If your emotional world feels more at peace when they're not around, it might be time to ask yourself, am I in love with this person, or am I just avoiding the truth? Sign number 7, you start feeling attracted to someone else. Attraction is natural. But when you find yourself emotionally or physically drawn to others more than your own partner, it's a warning sign that something is missing in your relationship. You meet someone new, a colleague, a friend, a stranger, and suddenly, the way they talk, laugh, or simply exist seems more intriguing than the person you're with. You start comparing, and in your heart, you know something is wrong. This doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means your current relationship may no longer be fulfilling you in the way it should. You fantasize about others more than your partner. The occasional admiration is normal, but if you're constantly imagining a life with someone else, your mind is signaling a deeper issue. Conversations with new people feel more exciting. If talking to strangers gives you more emotional connection than with your partner, the bond between you two has weakened. You start resenting your partner's flaws more. When you're emotionally checked out, you see only the negatives and stop appreciating the good in them. Attraction to others happens, but what you do with that feeling matters. Ask yourself, am I craving something new, or am I realizing that my current relationship is no longer the right one for me? Sign number 8, they don't care about your feelings. A person who truly loves you will notice when you're sad, worried when you struggle, and be there when you need them most. But what if they don't? Think about this, you come home after a stressful day, your shoulders are heavy, your voice lacks energy. Your partner doesn't ask, doesn't notice, or worse, seems annoyed when you express your emotions. This is not love. This is indifference. They never ask how your day was. A loving partner checks in, even with simple questions like, how are you feeling today? If they never ask, it signals emotional detachment. Your pain is dismissed. You express sadness or stress, but instead of comforting you, they say things like, you're overreacting, or, that's not a big deal. They show up when they need something, but disappear when you need them. Love is about mutual support. If they're present only for convenience, they're emotionally absent when it truly matters. Indifference is more painful than anger. It's the silent death of emotional connection. If you feel invisible in your relationship, it's time to ask yourself, am I with someone who truly values me? Sign number 9, you don't feel like yourself anymore. Have you ever caught yourself acting differently just to keep your partner happy? Do you feel like you have to suppress parts of your personality, your dreams, or even your opinions because they don't approve? This is not love. This is self-erasure, and it's one of the most dangerous red flags in a dead-end relationship. You constantly filter your words and actions. If you're always second-guessing what you say or how you behave around them, that's emotional suppression, not love. You feel like a chameleon, adapting to please them. Maybe you pretend to like their interests, downplay your own, or avoid topics that might make them upset. In a healthy relationship, you should be able to be yourself without fear. You've lost touch with what makes you happy. If you feel like you've forgotten who you were before the relationship, that's a sign that you've sacrificed too much of your identity to maintain it. A true partner embraces your essence, not forces you to change it. If you have to wear a mask to be accepted, the love is conditional at best and destructive at worst. It's time to ask yourself, are you in love, or are you just trying not to disappoint someone who wouldn't love the real you? Sign number 10, they no longer invest effort in the relationship. Love is not self-sustaining. It needs effort, commitment, and consistency. When one person stops trying, the foundation begins to crack. Have you noticed that your partner no longer initiates meaningful conversations? Doesn't plan dates, special moments, or simple gestures of affection? Seems emotionally distant, as if they're just coexisting rather than truly being present? This is a dangerous sign. A relationship cannot survive on one person's effort alone. If you're constantly the only one trying, constantly the only one caring, then the truth is painful but clear: they have checked out. Think about this. Love is not just a feeling, it's an action. If someone loves you, they will show it in how they prioritize, support, and invest in you. If their behavior has shifted from involvement to indifference, you need to ask yourself, are you in a relationship, or are you holding on to a memory of what it used to be? True love is a two-way street. If you are the only one walking, it's time to stop and ask yourself, is this worth it? Sign number 11, no longer sharing life goals. Love is not just about feelings. It's about building a future together. If two people don't share the same vision for life, it becomes nearly impossible to create a lasting, fulfilling relationship. Ask yourself. When you talk about the future, do they avoid the conversation or seem indifferent? Do your goals, whether about career, family, or lifestyle, clash rather than align? Do you feel like you're walking in one direction while they're walking in another? A healthy relationship is like rowing a boat together. Both people must paddle in the same direction. If your partner is rowing toward a different destination, or worse, not rowing at all, you'll eventually drift apart. The harsh truth. If someone truly sees a future with you, they will want to build it with you. If they hesitate, delay, or dismiss discussions about the future, you are not part of their long-term plan. Staying in a relationship where your paths are diverging will only lead to resentment and heartbreak. Love is not just about holding on to someone, it's about walking forward, together. Are you on the same path, or is it time to let go? What to do if you see these signs? Objective: provide practical solutions viewers can apply immediately. Step 1. Stop seeking validation from someone who no longer values you. When a relationship becomes one-sided, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to fix everything by yourself. You might keep looking for their attention, doing whatever it takes to make them notice you, or even justifying their indifference. What not to do? Beg for affection. If love needs to be begged for, it's no longer love. Lower your standards. The more you tolerate neglect, the more it will continue. Blame yourself. You are not responsible for someone else's lack of effort. What to do? Reassess your self-worth. You deserve love that is reciprocated. Remind yourself, I am not unlovable. They are just unwilling, or unable, to love me the way I deserve. Ask yourself, do I feel peace or exhaustion when I'm with them? Step 2. Have an honest conversation, but don't expect miracles. Communication can save some relationships, but only if both partners are willing to put in the effort. If you haven't had a direct and open conversation about your concerns, now is the time. How to approach the conversation. Pick the right moment, when both of you are calm and receptive. Use I statements instead of blaming. Lately, I feel like we've grown distant. Do you feel the same way? Observe their reaction. Do they ignore your feelings? Red flag, triangular flag. Do they get defensive or aggressive? Bigger red flag, triangular flag, triangular flag. Do they acknowledge the issue and show willingness to change? There may still be hope. Signs the relationship can still be saved. White heavy checkmark, they express regret for neglecting the relationship. White heavy checkmark, they ask how they can make things better instead of blaming you. White heavy checkmark, they take consistent actions, not just words. Step 3. Actively work on rebuilding the connection. If you both decide to fight for the relationship, effort must come from both sides. Here's how. White heavy checkmark, reintroduce quality time, set aside intentional, distraction-free time together. White heavy checkmark, bring back affection. Even small gestures like holding hands, hugging, and saying, thank you, can reignite warmth. White heavy checkmark, identify core issues. Is the problem stress? Routine? A lack of appreciation? Sometimes external factors, work, personal struggles, can create emotional distance. White heavy checkmark. Seek professional help. Therapy or counseling can provide neutral guidance on whether to fix or end the relationship. Step 4. Prioritize your mental well-being and self-respect. If you've tried everything, yet nothing changes, it's time to ask yourself the hard question. Is this relationship bringing me peace or draining my soul? If your well-being is suffering, take temporary space to gain clarity. Reconnect with your own identity. Remember who you were before the relationship. Seek support from trusted friends, family, or a therapist. Step 5. Have the courage to walk away if necessary. Sometimes, the hardest thing to accept is that love alone is not enough. You can love someone deeply, but if the relationship is toxic, unfulfilling, or one-sided, walking away is an act of self-respect. Reminder. Leaving does not mean failure. It means you recognize your worth. You are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to change. Better love exists, but you must create space for it to find you. You are not stuck. You have choices. And you deserve to be truly loved. Speech balloon. You don't have to beg for a love that has already died. Think about it. Love, in its truest form, is not something you need to chase. It is freely given, reciprocated, and nurtured by both partners. If you've recognized the signs we discussed today, you are already one step ahead. You have awareness. And awareness is power. The next step is action. Some relationships can be repaired. But some must be released so you can make space for something far greater. Backhand index pointing right. A love that respects you. A love that uplifts you. A love that makes you feel whole. If you are standing at the crossroads, uncertain of your next move, remember this. Police car light. Staying in a dead-end relationship does not mean you are loyal. It means you are stuck. Police car light. Letting go does not mean you are weak. It means you are brave enough to choose yourself. Have you ever been in a dead-end relationship? What was the moment that made you realize it was time to leave? Share your story in the comments. If this video opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button and share it with someone who might need this wake-up call. And if you want to see more content that empowers you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the journey to self-respect and real love does not end here. Sparkles, you are worthy. You are enough. And you deserve a love that never makes you question it.